My husband, 29, and I, 21, had dealt with a lot of drama and relationship issues after I gave birth to our daughter. We've been together since I was 18 and got married when I was 19. We had a good trusting relationship, but there was a shock to everyone when I gave birth to our daughter. She didn't have an appearance of having both of her parents being white. She had darker skin, brown eyes, and came out with thick dark curly hair. My husband and I both have light-colored hair and light-colored eyes and white skin. Everyone thought I cheated on my husband, which I never had. It was an awful moment of my life because I felt alone. Even my husband thought I cheated on him and left me in the hospital alone because his mom convinced him to leave. No one visited me because my mother-in-law posted pictures of my daughter on social media calling me a cheater. I didn't even see her take those pictures. My husband didn't reply to any of my texts, ignoring my pleas to get a DNA test. I had to stay at my sister's house for a month until I was able to convince him to get one, which proved without a doubt that he was the father to my daughter. My husband apologized profusely to me and allowed me back in our home, and honestly, ever since he treated me the way he did when I gave birth to our daughter, I felt different towards my husband and even a little distance. Even after the DNA test, my mother-in-law kept going on about how I cheated and called my daughter racial slurs and me every name in the book. She spread awful rumors about me and claimed the DNA is fraudulent and said she'd never treat that child as her granddaughter. Recently, my mother-in-law asked to visit our daughter and referred to her as her granddaughter. I don't know what changed her, but it made me feel uncomfortable, so I refused. My husband was angry at me that I did and thinks it gives a moment to help his mother bond with our daughter, and even said it's a child's right to get to know their grandparents. I don't know, I feel uncertain about this expressly since she never even apologized. Am I the idiot for refusing my mother-in-law visits with her granddaughter? Not the idiot. I wouldn't just refuse the mother-in-law access, I would leave the husband as well. He allowed you to move back into your shared home. And now he is angry because you can't immediately get over the horrible way his family and him have treated you. Honey, you and your beautiful daughter deserve so much better than this. What a horrible thing to have to go through, but please get counseling and re-evaluate your relationship. Good luck. The child's right. Sadly, your husband still seems to be taking his mother's position when it comes to you and your child. Let's get one thing clear, until the child is old enough to actually know what a grandparent is, calling it a child's right is utterly ridiculous. What he's really saying is that it's the grandparent's right to get to know the child, and that would be subject to grandparents' rights laws, assuming your state has anything like that. Point out to your husband that his mother has never apologized for her hateful words and certainly has never publicly retracted her declarations that your child is an affair baby, this even with a conclusive DNA test. No public apology and retraction. No visits with the grandchild. It's that simple. How can anyone call a baby a racial slur? Mother-in-law is beyond delusional if thinks she can see your daughter after all that. If you have any physical evidence of her words via Facebook or text messages, I would screenshot and save them in case she tries to go for grandparents' rights or something. I think your husband could be forgiven for his behavior because one could argue his mother was whispering in his ear, but he has no right to be angry at you for your decision regarding mother-in-law. I would also recommend you keep an eye on him in case he tries to sneak your daughter to see his mother or the other way around. My husband is deployed overseas and I have a newborn and my 3-year-old niece over here by myself. I am taking care of her as my older sister is incarcerated. I have no family or friends around here to help me or give me a break. I'm already doing my part and then some. I'm utterly exhausted and have no sleep schedule and routine for myself as the kids, especially the newborn, are expectedly demanding. To the point where I feel I'm going to throw up if I don't get rest when I can. My husband met somebody overseas who is stationed at our base. He says his wife lives here, is pregnant, ill, he says mental illness like severe post-traumatic stress disorder and anxiety, and cannot drive herself anywhere. He volunteered me to drive her around to her early AM appointments without asking me first. He loves helping people. I get it. But that's where I'm like, what about me? When he called me and told me about it, I said no. I physically cannot put in the extra work to take care of another human being, especially an adult whom I do not know, and he got upset with me because he already told his mate that I could help them. I can't. I genuinely cannot unless they want me to lose what little sanity I have left. I told him this, but he doesn't seem to think that I'm having that hard of a time and could easily help somebody out in need. I am running on fumes and figured out how to manage with what I have. The extra work could quite literally break me. He thinks I'm being extremely insensitive, and how would I feel if I needed help, but there was nobody there to help me. I told him I needed help myself, but he thinks I'm being overdramatic. The maid is now disappointed, and the wife has nobody to bring her to her appointment early in the morning. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Volunteering your time and energy like that was a jerk move on your husband's part. You have a toddler and a newborn, of course, you're exhausted and clinging to your last remnants of sanity. I get that your husband's friend and his wife were hopeful, but your husband is responsible for getting their hope up, not you. Well, I'm certain this other woman needs help. You can't pour out of your own empty cup to fill hers. She can take an Uber to get where she needs to go. He thinks I'm being extremely insensitive, and how would I feel if I needed help, but there was nobody there to help me. Funny that he should call you insensitive when he cares not a bit for your exhaustion, additional parenting responsibilities and time, and forces on you additional responsibilities without asking you first. And he seems not to realize that you already are needing extra help and have no one. It sounds like he wants to help everyone except you. His wife, your husband, is a major idiot. You are not the idiot. No. He's the one being insensitive. He's not taking his wife's and in turn his kids' needs into account. There are services on base that can probably help her. Tell him that you are not doing it point blank period, and it was very rude of him to volunteer your time when he's not even here without asking you. You're not Wonder Woman. You're a human being trying to do it on your own with 2 kids already. What an idiot if he doesn't come around and respect your perspective here. Show him this too, because I can bet almost everyone here will say you're not the idiot. There was a 2-year period where my husband and I were separated. My husband had a habit of buying me expensive jewelry during our marriage. During the separation, I sold the majority of it to support myself until I found a job in my new location. By some miracle we reconciled, but I never mentioned having sold the jewelry because I didn't know how to bring it up, and he never seemed to notice it was missing. His cousin is getting married soon. I'm a bridesmaid and she recently came over to see me in my dress. While she was over, she mentioned a necklace I used to have that would have looked perfect with a dress. I told her I didn't think it would look nice because I don't have it anymore, and I didn't know how to admit that to her. Later, when we were having dinner, she brought it up again in front of my husband. She asked his opinion, and he agreed that the necklace would look good with the dress and suggested I try it on just to humor her. I finally had to admit I didn't have it anymore. He never said anything in front of his cousin, just got quiet, but after she left, he brought it up again. I tried to explain that I sold it because I needed the money, but he wouldn't accept that reasoning. To be fair, he did keep adding money to our joint account the entire separation, but I never touched it for several reasons, the biggest being I didn't want him to use the transactions to figure out where I was, and I didn't want to keep relying on him when I thought we were over for good. He asked me if it was just the one necklace, so I had to admit I had sold most of it. He wanted me to show him what I had kept, which I did. After he saw, he got really upset with me and asked if the things he gave me had so little meaning to me that I would flog them off for peanuts when I had other options. I didn't know what to say, and he's clearly still angry at me. Am I the idiot? I'd say both, but at different times. You sold the jewelry, and that's not really an asshole thing to do. You had separated from your husband, you needed money, and didn't want to take money from the joint account so that he couldn't locate you. That's not the idiot move. The idiot move was reconnecting, but failing to mention anything. It would have been better for you both if you had mentioned it sooner, though I understand it's not exactly the easiest thing to bring into a conversation. Having the situation play out the way it did makes it seem like you were never going to say anything unless something made you have to say it. He definitely has the right to be pissed. But you guys need to have a conversation about why you didn't feel safe, right, whatever the feeling was, touching the money he left, and why you felt that was the option you had to take. You need to explain yourself. He is owed that. You also did what you had to. If you explain yourself and he doesn't accept that, then that is how it is. I know you think you told him why you did it, but it sounds like you told him the practical reasons. I needed the money, not the emotional and safety reasons. At that point, you thought the relationship was over. At that point, I can understand why you did not want a reminder of the relationship. Obviously, he must have done some horrible things too, otherwise you would have taken the money that he was depositing for you. Does your hubby really want to go back in time and rake over these old issues? It was another time, with completely different circumstances. You can tell him you can understand his hurt now that you are back together, but it was a completely different time back then. My in-laws live 3 hours away and over the last year have made less and less effort to really be part of our children's lives. We go down to visit about once every 6 weeks, and even when we are there, the visits have been becoming less and less fun. We just celebrated our last child's first birthday, and the morning of the party my husband's entire family, mother-in-law, father-in-law, brother-in-law, his wife and daughter, cancelled. Prior to this, I had confirmed with them numerous times about coming, had my house ready to host everyone, then moved the entire party 1 hour closer to them when they decided they wanted to do a round trip. My mother-in-law had been diagnosed with bronchitis a week before, and I asked her more than once if she was sure she felt well enough to come. She assured me she did, committed to bringing one of the main kid-friendly dishes, and went to a wedding the night before the party. My brother-in-law's wife sent me a very unapologetic classic baby cop-out excuse and didn't even wish my child a happy birthday. The party was kept to just family, so this resulted in a lot of wasted food, resources, time, and money. Plus the stress of moving the party location last minute. My husband felt like they probably knew for a while they weren't going to come and waited until the morning of the party to tell us. He had a few choice words with everyone, and I chose to not respond to any of the messages that I got later on. Essentially giving everyone the silent treatment. But later that night, my husband kind of retracted his reaction and said that maybe we overreacted and I should respond to everybody's messages. When I didn't and I chose not to send any pictures of the party, he said I was being the idiot. Am I the idiot for giving his family the silent treatment and refusing to send pictures of the party? Don't go scorched earth out of love for your husband. But do stop catering to, then being disappointed by his family. Stop dithering around over them and putting yourself out there like that. Let husband initiate and handle all party invitations, communications concerning them, and cancellations concerning his family. Never move a party location again for them. Refuse any future offers of food, citing the need to be able to count on having it there. Simply don't expect anything of them and allow your husband to manage his own expectations. In short, don't allow their bad behavior and lack of follow-through or consideration to cause problems with you and your husband. Not the idiot. Happy birthday to your daughter. I hope that despite your in-laws' absence you did have some fun. I would tell your husband that he is welcome to share whatever he wants with his family, but that you are taking a break from them for the foreseeable future. If they want to initiate contact, be kind and polite, but if they don't, live your best life without them. Stop caring. I know, easier said than done, but just focus on the good people you do have around you. Don't badmouth them, don't ignore them, just don't care about them. Don't give them power over you. Life will be better. Good luck. Every person needs a measure of self-respect, and yours would be trampled should you allow such treatment go without consequences. Your husband's point of view is conflicted because it's his side of the family, but what if it'd have been yours? Even then, if he took their side and relented again, it'd have been a bad choice. As a married couple, your stance shouldn't be divided. Since it is, you need to sit down on the subject until you reach a unanimous resolution. I personally treat others the way I want to be treated until they treat me back. Then, if they treat me well, I treat them better. If they mistreat me, I disregard them entirely. My friend, 16, is obsessed with therapy and thinks it is the solution to all of life's problems. He always tells people they need to go to therapy for everything. I was in a car crash recently after a drunk driver hit me. It was a bad crash that totaled the car, but I wasn't really hurt. Ever since then, my friend has been harassing me to go to therapy. He's gleeful now that something bad enough has happened to me for him to be theoretically justified in pestering me about therapy 24/7. Because before, he only had minor things to use against me like me not wanting my food to touch or not liking extremely crowded spaces. Since the car crash, he's been overjoyed that he can finally claim I'm traumatized, I'm actually not, and not be immediately dismissed by people. He is always orchestrating scenarios where he can try to trigger or upset me to prove I have PTSD and need therapy. He purposely puts on news channels where they talk about car crashes. When something on the news comes up about a car accident, if I am not interested in hearing about the injuries and seeing the gore, he always smirks and says it's proof that he's right and I need therapy. I'm not triggered. I just don't feel like hearing about it. Sometimes we walk on the sidewalk and he points and pretends a car is coming at us to try to make me jump so he can say I have PTSD and need therapy. I was driving us somewhere in the car and he screamed suddenly, "Watch out for the truck," to try to scare me to prove I'm triggered and need therapy like he says. When I got home, I started crying out of anger because he won't ever stop. He just wants to prove he's right and I need therapy when I don't. I said, I don't want to talk to him. He is angry and says I don't deserve a friend like him. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. You don't need a friend like him. He's an idiot and putting you in legitimate danger with his foolish pranks. The kid is projecting his own issues and discomfort with being in therapy, and this behavior from people who are self-conscious about it isn't uncommon. You do you. He is being abrasive, abusive, and you don't need that. You also don't need to justify anything to him. If he can't behave like a decent human person and show basic respect for you, it'll be his problem that he's lost a friend over it. Why would you keep a friend that's literally trying to gaslight you into believing you have PTSD? This is literally the strangest thing I've heard in a long time. I'm going to go with, not everyone who takes time out of their life to be with you is actually a friend. Friends don't try to manipulate people they care about into a mental health crisis that requires therapy. If you think you can get him to stop, please be aware that this kind of controlling behavior will simply pop up in another area. He's gotten a taste of the control now, he won't give it up without therapy. Your friend is a douchy 16-year-old boy, not a trained therapist. He's intentionally trying to trigger you, which in fact could lead to more psychological harm. Absolutely no one can force anyone into therapy they don't want. What's his obsession with therapy? Don't get me wrong, I went to therapy for a long time and was a therapist for a period, but never, ever have I insisted that someone has to go. The fact that you describe him as gleeful that something upsetting happened to you indicates he's not a friend, he's a menace.